Hi, welcome back to our lingerie series. Today is episode 7 and we're going to start looking at a few bra patterns, 7, 8 and 9, and you will hopefully find a bra style that suits your body shape. We're going to start off with the bras that are the easiest to make and move up to the harder ones. Although bra making seems like a really difficult thing to do, the actual sewing isn't difficult at all. It's getting the right fit that is the tricky part. You can assume that your first bra that you ever make will be a practice one. People rarely make a bra that fits first time. So make sure that when you order your fabric, you order enough to maybe make one and your second one, which is going to be the one that fits. Today, I'm making the Wardrobe by Me bralette. This bra features a soft cup and a soft plushy band. There is no fastening on the back. It's a pull over the head one, and it has straps which have adjustable sliders and rings. There are a few other things to note when you're using bra patterns, which is obviously your size. So don't just pick the size that you normally have from a shop or one that you've had before, which has felt really good. You need to measure yourself using the technique in the pattern, because there's a few different methods for measuring bras. And if you choose one method and the pattern is drafted for another, you're not going to get the right fit from the start. So do whatever it says to do in the pattern. I'm just making an extra small one today just so that I can show you the techniques. Here's the shape of it. You will also have a few other things to note, so read the whole booklet. This pattern has 7mm seam allowance, and that's really important because every millimetre counts when you're making a bra cup. Your fabric needs to have 30 to 40% stretch, and your stretch mesh needs to have 30 to 40% stretch as well. You can choose how you sew this together, so you can use a lightning stitch, you can use a narrow zigzag stitch, you can use a Mariflex thread, which is a stretchy sewing thread, and just use a straight stitch on your machine. You will always need to practice on a test piece. You need to have the right needle in your sewing machine so you're not skipping stitches or getting little bird's nests in your fabric. So when you, after you've cut your pieces out, keep a couple of the scraps and just have a go on your machine and try and get a really good stitch tension using the settings on your machine, and also ensuring you have the right needle and thread. You'll need 2 different types of elastic, an elastic to go around the band at the bottom, and that needs to be quite a plushy one, which I've included in the list below on Minerva's website. And you will also need a bra strap elastic, which is slightly different as it has a bit of a higher tension. So let's take a look at the fabric that we're going to use. You need a stretch fabric, and I've chosen a jersey stretch. It's really soft to touch, and it's got these little holes in it which give it a sort of pattern feature. So rather than it being patterned with a print, it's patterned with this punch out hole. It's got a bigger stretch in the one grain than the other. So this is the length grain and it's stretchy, and this is the width grain and it's much stretchier. So you need to make sure that you're using the direction of greatest stretch, and we'll take a look at that when we go to the cutting table. The band elastic for this is really wide. It's sometimes used on boxer shorts, and it's got a really thick band which makes it quite supportive, and it's plushy on both sides. The elastic that you choose for the straps needs to match the width of your rings and sliders, because if it's too wide it will curl inside the sliders, and if it's too narrow it will just keep flipping and twisting. I've got all black notions to go with this fabric, and this fabric will also make the iris knickers if you want to make knickers to match. A second element of the fabric choice, which you might not have used before until you sort of enter the world of lingerie sewing, is a power net. And a power net is a really slinky mesh. It's not stiff like you imagine tulle net to be. It's stretchy in one direction, not in the straight grain, but it is in the cross grain. And this fabric is used to line bras. So because this fabric has holes in and it's actually very stretchy, you put the power net behind to strengthen it, and this you might use in a different plane. So you have the stretch of your fabric going in one way and you have the power net going the other way, and that gives the bra cup support. If you make both layers in the greatest direction of stretch, it will just make quite a droopy bra. So you need to make sure that you're stabilizing the fabric in some way but still allows stretch and comfort. Okay, let's cut out the pieces and take a look at how we're going to cut out the fabric with our paper pieces, making sure that we get those stretches in the right direction. Okay, it really is worth tracing off your pattern pieces when you make any kind of underwear, because they're normally quite small pieces, and if you've not made this pattern before, you might need to move up a size, and it's really tricky to do multi-sizing when you've got a lot of curves. So it doesn't take long. You keep your original pattern intact, and I only needed those 3 pieces. What you do need to transfer is the greatest direction of stretch. So I've used a broken line to indicate that. This is the straight grain, this is the direction of greatest stretch. I've also added my seam allowance there to remind me when I am making this pattern that I need to make sure it's only 1/4 inch or 6-7 millimeters. So when we look at the fabric, this is the selvage edge, and this stretch is greater than this stretch. So this is the greatest direction of stretch. So I folded my fabric over double, I've pinned my pieces on. You can see that you only need a really small amount of fabric. So that if it was cut here, that would be a 30cm piece. Obviously you'd need to move it across a bit if you're using bigger pieces, but it really only uses a very small amount of fabric. You're going to do the same with the stretch mesh. So I've got these pieces ready to cut out, and I'm going to cut the same pieces out of power mesh. So this way it's a little bit more stable. So you could put this piece here and you would have a stretchy cup and a not so stretchy power mesh. If you're making a smaller size, you can cut this piece out of your stretchy mesh but on the greatest direction of stretch, and that will determine how stretchy your cup is. Just be careful when you're marking your notches to only just snip the edge of the fabric. You've only got a 7mm or 1/4 inch seam allowance, so you don't want any of your notch markings to encroach into your seam line. If you don't think your fabric scissors are sharp enough to do that, then you can use a marker pen. Okay, so you should have your back band, your front cut piece and your side cut piece. Okay, it's time to put your bralette together. Okay, stage number 1 is the hardest part of this pattern. The sewing isn't difficult, you've just got to get everything in the right order, and it's not a lot of fun unpicking these stretch fabrics, so you want to make sure you've got this first bit doubly right. So you're going to stack the front and the side cut fabric and the lining in a particular order of layers. It starts with the lining right side up, so I've got the curve on my right. Next we're looking for this notch here and this notch here to match up, so that is going to be the next layer, so the 2 linings together. Then we're going to go for the fabric right side up, and then we're going to go for our final piece with the wrong side up, and all of those will be matched with the notches, and we're going to pin that edge together You might want to pause here and just make sure that you get all of your pieces in the right order. It helps if you pin the end and the notches, and then you can see how much fabric there is to ease in, because you're going to be sewing a curve. You don't need to use an overlocker for this bra. You can do it all on the sewing machine, because this little formation here is to ensure that all of the seam allowance is enclosed. When I first started making bras, I used to make an outer in the main fabric and then an inner in the mesh, but then I ended up with 2 seams running along the front of my bust. So this way you get one seam line, you trim out all of the excess, but you still have your lining attached. I have my machine set up with a ballpoint needle, and I'll be looking for that 7mm or 1/4 inch seam allowance. With lighter and stretched fabrics like this, it's best not to forwards and back at the end, because you'll get a little chewed up end, and because we've only got a small seam allowance, we need that to stay flat. So I have tied off the ends. We're going to layer out some of this seam now, because we don't want a really thick seam along the front of our bust. I'm trimming that back, but you can, if your fabric's a little bit thick, you can also layer one out. You'll need some really good scissors that have got sharp points. Hopefully then what you achieve is a really smooth bust seam, but on the back all of your seams are enclosed. Don't forget, when you make up your other cup, you need to have that as an opposite cup shape, because you don't want to have 2 the same. Next, we're going to put these 2 cups together. So you've got to keep the lining and the fabric all lined up. There's 2 versions. You can have a crossover front, or you can have a straight seamed front. So there's different instructions for each one, but it's essentially joining up the centre seam. You'll be using some notches if you want the crossover front. When you sew this centre front seam line, you need to leave 7mm before you start, because we're going to put elastic along this front edge here. So we need to make sure we've got some handling room to add the elastic. So don't start at the end and sew straight down, because you won't be able to put the elastic on. You need to finish 7mm from the end. You need this centre seam to lie flat, so you can either zigzag it together and fold it to one side, or you can split it open and top stitch it from the front. So you can put one line of top stitching down one side of the seam and one line against the other, and that will give your bra a little bit of stability at the bridge in the middle. Next, we're going to work on this front edge, and we're going to be using the first of our elastics, which is a Pico elastic. And the Pico has a right side and a wrong side sometimes. Sometimes the wrong side is plushy, and the right side you can see the grains of the Pico. So it's going to go plushy side up, Picos in. And we're going to zigzag that in place. Need to leave some tails on the end, and that's why we left that little bit of the seam unfinished. So we can fold one bust piece down so that our elastic can go right to the very end. In lingerie sewing, people don't use many pins. They normally just pin at the beginning, just to make sure everything gets started, and then the rest is done with your own hand holding the tension under the machine. You need to set your zigzag stitch to be the width of the elastic, or do your row of zigzag close to the picot. If you don't do it close to the picot, when you fold it back you'll get loads of elastic showing, so you need to do your zigzag close to the picot. Picot's in, plushy or wrong side up. Again, give yourself a little bit of handling at the end. Use the hand wheel to check that you're getting nice and close to the picot, but you don't want to be squashing it. So the left hand zigzag needs to come just to the edge of the picot. Obviously you've got your lining and your outer piece to line up at the same time. If you're finding it tricky to line all of that up, you can use a temporary glue pen just to put a few dabs of glue along there. Just makes it a little bit tacky and sticks the two layers together. Don't add too much tension to this. If you add too much tension it will grip, so you need this to be just placed on without stretch. So that when you fold the elastic back, you just reveal the picot edge. This time, you're going to take a second pass and zigzag on the top, and that will hold the back down. And there you need to be making sure that you catch the back of the elastic. So this time you don't need to be close to the picot, you need to be close to the raw edge. Next we're going to work on the bra band, so you'll have a lining piece and an outer, and we're going to sandwich those around the cut piece. So you'll have right sides together, your bra band on your cup, and then on the lining side you'll have lining sides together, so that when we sew down here we can enclose all of the seam. Going to do the same on the other side, and we'll flip it so that the lining remains on the lining side and the outer remains on the outer side. I'll show you the flip once I've sewn those side seams together. The seams have been trimmed, so now we can flip so that the outer is on the outer and the lining is on the inside. Using all the same techniques, you're going to add elastic to the underarm, around the back and up to the top. So you'll add the picot the same as you did on the front, and sew the elastic all the way round. If you maybe on your first bra, or you know this might happen to you, if you think you're going to get some baggy sides, baggy underarm, then you can hold some tension on the piece that's under your arm. Keep the elastic straight along the back, and then add a little bit of tension on the other underarm. It's up to you. It depends on your bust size, it depends on your body shape and how you like the comfort fit of your bra. Use all the same zigzag widths that you made for the front, so that your zigzag stitches match along the front and the underarm. Here's the elastic. All the Pico is attached. Next you're going to add the rings. So put them onto the top of the cups and fold it down. It's quite tricky to sew because you've got the metal ring and not much space here. So you can hand sew it, or you can use a different foot on your machine. Next, measure the bra band snugly around your rib cage, and you'll need a 1 inch overlap so you can attach the elastic securely. You're going to do 2 rows of zigzag stitches to hold that together. I find it easy to start in the middle. If you start in the middle, you can turn the elastic round, get a double layer of zigzag, and rather than your threads ending at the end, you can pull the elastic to the centre and keep the edges straight. We're going to find the centre back of the bra, so line up the side seams and find the centre back. Mark it with a pin and then line up the bra band centre with the centre back, and you need to overlap that by 7mm. Make sure it's catching everything on the back, and continue to add 4 pins, 1 at the front and 1 at each side. You're going to zigzag around here. Make sure you've got all of the layers. And your main bra is complete. We're going to take a look at the shoulder straps. So this is a different type of elastic. It's really strong. It doesn't stretch as much. It has a sort of shiny stay stitch line along the centre to stop it stretching out. Add a slider, so put the slider on and just overlap the end. And you're going to sew this on the machine. Again, it's tricky because you're going to have a little bit of hardware in the way. But I found it useful to put on my zipper foot and sew it with a straight stitch so I could get really close to the end of the elastic but not catch the slider. The shoulder straps go through the rings with the wrong side facing up, so you want the join that you made facing you, and then the strap comes over the top and through the sliders. Make sure you don't twist it so everything's lying nice and flat, and you've made an adjustable strap. And the bottom of the strap can be tacked in place, and you can try it on and see where you want to have your bra strap. The shoulder strap elastic through the ring, through the slider, and then you need the elastic to be going right down onto the bra band. That's what gives it its strength. Make sure they're in the same place, and we're going to sew those with 2 parallel lines of straight stitching. We don't need any stretch here. So starting on the actual bra band, do a straight stitch going through the elastic You can put on an embellishment if you want. There's a rose or a little bow. There's lots on our website. Take a look. You can make your own bow out of a little bit of ribbon. I've got a few little lace border pieces that I've cut off a previous piece of fabric, and finish off your bra. Here it is finished. I just made an extra small, but actually it's a really good size for a teen. It's good, I mentioned this in my first episode, it's good if you make all of your notions either black or white. So if you choose a fabric that goes with black or white notions, then you've got lots of choice. You'll be able to get all the different elastics, because there is the Pico edge, the stiffer shoulder strap, and the super plushy band. You can get this in a different width if you would prefer to have a smaller width. And if you are making bras, then I really recommend that you write down some of the settings that you used. So I really like this zigzag that I used to attach the Pico and to top stitch. So because I want to replicate that another time, then I've written down that zigzag stitch. I've also made a note of the product number for the power net and the t-shirt fabric, because both of those create a really good stretch and a good comfortable fit. So if I want to try and get that fabric again, then I want to know that I'm getting the same one with the same stretch. Because even if you make a bra and you're really happy with it, unless you actually replicate it with the same elastics and the same stretch, you will get a different fit each time. So that's the jeopardy of bra making. But if you keep a note of what you're doing, then you'll really help yourself when you come to try that pattern again. You think you'll remember, but you never ever do. So I like to write mine down in my little sewing journal. I've been getting some extra tips from demystifying bra fitting and construction, and that's really helped me as a home sewer to really understand some of the construction of bras and some of the fitting techniques. I had 60 centimetres of the fabric, because at Minerva we sell our fabric in 10 centimetre increments, and I've got absolutely loads left. I've got enough to make a couple of pairs of iris knickers to go with it, and I've saved the rest of the Pico elastic, and I've got another set of bra straps and another band for the bottom, so I could make a second one in extra small. I don't think I could get one any bigger, but it's a good idea to keep these things together. So maybe put them in an envelope, plastic bag or an organza bag, so that you've got all of this together so that you can use this fabric up. It might be that your first one didn't fit as well as you thought you wanted it to, so you can go back and have another go if you get 50 or 60 centimetres of fabric. I hope you've enjoyed that sew along today, and maybe it's given you a little gateway into the world of sewing bras. If that style of bra isn't for you, then join us for our next episode where we make a halter neck bra, which might give you a support in a different place. We would love to see anything that you've made. If you can hashtag lingerie, that's really good, because that helps people who are searching this new topic to find as much information as they can. We would love to see anything you've made, so you can take a photo, you can photograph it flat, that's fine. We really like to see people's fabric choices. Thank you very much for watching. Do come back for our next episode where we're trying a simplicity bra which has lace worked with a power mesh, and that is a halter neck shape.